Welcome back to Max Rides. So we're going to switch cycles a little bit. We've been talking BMW GS for quite a bit, and now I'm going to get into one of my other rides. I'll create a separate playlist, and depending on what my feedback is, I can continue on with this. But basically, we're going to start talking about my recently purchased 2025 Toyota Tundra. It's not pistachio. It's going to look like that in the video. No matter what anybody does, it does that. So this is brand new. It's got, I don't know, less than 600 miles on it, I guess. And one of the first things that I do, and this is because it's something that I enjoy doing, but I look to try to do what I can to protect the paint as much as I can, so I utilize the ceramic coatings. This isn't going to be a tutorial video. It's meant more to be an inspirational video and to give you an idea of some of the products that I use and some of the mistakes that I make along the way. Not sure if you can see the cloudiness in here, but that is from a cheap windshield ceramic coating that I used. It was discounted. It's probably because it was expired, and it's going to be a bitch to get off, but I'll work on it. But anyway, what I'm going to get into right now is this. So I washed this yesterday. I did what you would call a maintenance wash, which is just a regular wash with a pH neutral soap, and I've still got some stuff that's left over in it. This is one of the reasons why I wash it one day and then I come back the next day and I do the clay bar. So products used. Going to start off with rinse and wash diluted in a spray bottle. This stuff's super concentrated. 256 to 1. 1 ounce for 2 gallons of water. So that'll give you an idea how concentrated that stuff is. I'm going to be applying that to the vehicle to get rid of what I think is, I hope it's not pine sap, but I'm going to be using this synthetic clay towel to do that. That's another product by Clean. So why did I choose Clean by Pan the Organizer? Well, he's a huge influence on YouTube. He's probably got one of the highest and most followed YouTube channels, and he's taught me how to do everything that I do to my vehicles. So shout out to him for creating his own line of products, and shout out to him for making it easy for everybody to use. So I'll be advancing from that onto Clean spray polish with an orbital buffer. I'll talk a little bit about that. Again, these aren't tutorial videos. It's just kind of motivation and the products that I'm going to be using. And then I'm going to be using his 3-year ceramic coating. So the 3-year coating is sufficient for what I need. I don't need the 5-year. And the whole idea behind this, and the reason and the justification for this, is you only have 1 coat of clear coat. Okay, so the more you protect it, the better off you are. So, you know, classic case of right now, I think I have pine sap on my vehicle. I'm not sure. It's removable. It's a little bit sticky. It showed up after my last wash, and then it represented itself after washing yesterday. So I know I need to get that off. And then once I get that off, I need to put something on there to protect the clear coat. So the ceramics are highly pH resistant, so they last long. That's why that 3-year coating is there. It enhances gloss, but more important to me, it's protection. So if this was to happen again with the tar, instead of it being directly on my clear coat like it is now, it would be on top of my ceramic. So hats off to Pan for making something that isn't outrageously expensive and doesn't require some stupid certification to apply. So just follow the steps and follow his instructional videos on how to do it, and anybody can do it. So that's what I'm going to be using. So moving right into this, and I'm going to have to do this one-handed because I don't have my tripod set up yet. You're basically going to modestly spray your clay towel first. You don't want anything dry going onto a surface. It always wants to be wet. Okay. And then I'm going to spray the surface the same way. Just missed it. And I'm just going to do one small section at a time. This front quarter is what I'm interested in right now. And then basically you're just going to wipe this around. And I hope you can hear that. Can you hear that? So if you're hearing that scratching noise, that's letting me know that this is pulling that off. And I'm basically going to be rubbing in a straightforward, straight backward motion. You never want to do anything around. straight forward and straight back. I usually try to follow the contours of the vehicle instead of actually straight up, straight down, just because I'm looking for any scratches that end up coming into this to be in a straight line. Okay, so as I wipe now, I'm starting to notice that I'm no longer hearing that scratchy sound. So that tells me this clay towel is doing exactly what I wanted it to do without marring the paint. All right, now I'll do the grill separately because I want to stick within this 1/4 that I originally talked about, right? And then for giggles, if you want, you can come back with another microfiber towel and wipe off this. I'm not even concerned about it because I'm going to wipe down with isopropyl alcohol, a 50-50 prep, before I start the process of the polish. So I'm obviously doing this outside any elements. You want to try to do any of this stuff in indirect sunlight, temperatures are going to be ideal for me today. It's not supposed to get to 80 degrees. That should help me out a lot. But this whole process will go pretty quickly. I'm going to go back to this 1/4 now. Now I'm trying to see if I can bring that sound out again for you. Hope you can hear that. You notice as I keep wiping it, it just keeps going away. So basically I'm using feel through the cloth, and I'm using sound to determine when I can stop wiping on it, knowing that that is completely gone before I get on to the next step, and then a visual inspection as well, you know. But I definitely like the positive feedback that I get from using the towel versus the old clay bars. Clay bars were really marred paint, and that made it difficult to use, and then you're always having to rotate it, and there was always the risk of contamination, so scratching, things like that. So I kind of like this towel. And what I'll do is when I get done with this panel, which is the hood, I'll go inside and I'll rinse this towel out really good before I start using it again. But I don't hear that noise anymore, so I'm getting the effect that I'm looking for. All right, so basically that's going to go. I'll do this panel and I'll do the 1/4 panels before I proceed to the next step, which is going to be the polishing. And I'll get back to you then. All right. Just do a little bit of scrubbing talk here for just a second. Kind of talk about some of the reasons why all this is necessary before the application of anything, really. The reason why you want to make sure that this surface is as clean as you can possibly get it, to include the polishing step, is because the closer you get your coating to a clean surface, contaminant-free surface, the longer the effectiveness of whatever you're putting on is going to be. And with something like a 3-year polish, the length of time that lasts is really going to be dependent on your prep step. And you'll notice that I'm doing this wipe down step in direct sunlight. It's really taboo with anything. Obviously the surface is warmer. The drying of anything on the surface makes it more difficult to get it off. But again, this is this waterless wash is designed to kind of dissolve itself out. So it's basically designed for people that don't have access to a regular wash, you know, soap and water type philosophy to things. And you can actually put this on with a iron remover, as long as it's safe for your clay towel and doesn't break your clay towel down. And there's certain chemicals, I'm not a chemist, I can't tell you which ones they are. This didn't need any iron remover. It's pretty new. I did spray it in a couple places just to see if I got any color change, and I didn't get any. And I didn't want to go through the expense of using iron remover on the whole vehicle, because iron remover is basically designed for removal of iron deposits that come from, you know, natural or atmospheric type stuff like rail dust and things of that nature. So there could have been some on here, but I did test spray it a couple places. I didn't see any color change, so I felt pretty confident there wasn't anything like that on there. But like I said, the real reason for doing all this now is to get this surface as clean as you can get it. And you know, you're going to make some mistakes, and they will correct themselves. I mean, I'll give you a classic example right here. See if I can get that in the sun, out of the sun where you can see that. I marred the paint pretty good with the clay towel. There's something in the towel when I hit it, and fortunately it seems to come off with my fingers just stuck to the outside. I don't think it's going to be anything that's embedded itself in the clear coat or anything crazy like that, but I'll be able to get that out with a polish step, and I'll kind of show that to you when we get time to do it. But generally, if it'll remove with your fingernail, it should remove, period. So we're ready to the next phase here. It hit on something that I think makes a lot of sense, and this is something that everybody has a different opinion on. I'm not one who's super fan of spending a lot of money on microfiber cloths, washing them and doing all this other stuff. Number one, my wife will raise hell if I put too much in the washing machine. It's dirty. Understandably, she doesn't want us to contaminate the washing machine or mess the washing machine up. I get that. So what I've started using is I've started using microfiber towels in the roll, and I got both of these products from Walmart. You can get them from any big box store, I think. And basically, it's a bunch of microfiber towels on a roll, and I've got two different types of pile here. So this is thinner. It's much thinner, two-sided, and I don't know what the CFM is on that. The higher the CFM, the more plush the top is. So this is 230 GSM. Okay, so it lists what it's good for: waterless wash, removal of polishes. And the reason why I have two different thicknesses to this is my go-to for just about everything. It's great for glass because it's low pile, and this is what I'm going to be using for the next step in the process, which I'm going to have to do on the non-sunny side because direct sunlight is hitting the truck and its temperature. So I don't want any of the surfaces hot. There's not going to be any on the passenger side. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a panel prep spray, and you can do whatever you want to do as far as panel prep is concerned, okay? This is 50% water, 50% alcohol. Clean, Pans brand, Clean, has a panel prep, and it has a little bit of a surfactant in it, which would assist in the process of cleaning everything down. But it was out of stock when I was looking to get it, and so unfortunately I'm not going to have it. But I really don't think I needed to invest the money in it. I mean, I've listened to Pans say for years that you can make your own panel prep. They do recommend that you stay within brands, so I'm using Clean's waterless wash, I'm using Clean's polish, and I'm using Clean's ceramics, and there's some justification for that, because obviously they make sure that all their chemicals work together. But for now, I'm just going with 50% water, 50% alcohol. So basically, if you get a bottle of 90% alcohol from your big box store, you fill it up. It'd probably bring you somewhere in the middle of this bottle, maybe a little bit less. You might want to go to 50% yourself. And then basically, if I put the whole bottle in there, then what I try to do is I try to fill that bottle up with water and top it off. This is a little bit more concentrated than 50-50. This will work really well getting rid of any of the oil that might be associated with it from my hands. And this is going to make that surface as clean as possible before the polish step. Then you'll have to redo this whole step again after polish to make sure that all your polish is removed. And I'm going to be using Pans polish because he talks a lot about ease of use and ease of removal. So I'm not going to show you how I wipe it down. I'm just going to go ahead and start doing it. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to do it on the non-sunny side because this will dry on contact and it won't have its effectiveness. So I'll get back to you in a minute. When you're using the clay towel, to make sure that you keep the clay towel lubricated and to make sure that you keep the surface lubricated. So you see these three lines here? I hope they're showing up in the camera. That's actually from the clay towel because the surface was warm, wasn't lubricated enough, and it's still warm. It's warm to the touch, right? So I'm kind of on a standby mode right now, waiting on some temperature to come out of this metal and the sun to come off of it. But I just sprayed it with just isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to give it a good rub and get some of it off. And I can still feel it and I can still see it, but it is working itself loose. Do it one more time. So I got some of it loose, but it's still there. So the polish step is going to be what's going to get rid of the rest of that. And I can definitely tell that it is consistent with what would be on the clay towel, or possibly something sticky that was on the towel, maybe a bug, but I don't think it's a bug because it's taking too much to get it off, but you could see. So I'm not marring the paint any, and if I did mar it, the polish phase would get rid of it. But I do want to try to get as much of that off as much as I can, because it does have a kind of a tackiness to it. Wouldn't want to contaminate a pad. So voila, it's gone. Don't panic about this stuff. You know, you're not, the only thing you can really do that can hurt anything in this process is just half-ass it. You know, just take your time with it till you figure it out, till you learn it. I want to talk a little bit about my pads here. So these pads are probably at least 5 years old. I don't use them very much. These were recommended by Pan, and these are fine. And these are Rupes DAs, and this is a Lake Country. So they're both fine, right? Don't pay any attention to the color, because they're not consistent with manufacturers about things like color. So, you know, you kind of stay out of that realm. Just make sure that you are getting the right pad for the right application. Now, Pan says that his polish is good, and that you change the polish depending on what the severity of the abrasion is. So you can use it with wool, you can use it with terry and stuff like that, microfiber. These are just sponge pads. I will say this, because they're washable, you know, don't try to get too cheap with it. I'm not going to leave any links in the description, because to be honest with you, I don't have any affiliate linking. I don't get paid for it. So I'm not going to push anybody towards a specific manufacturer, except for maybe Pan. Pan rocks. All right, so two different types of pads here. So they're both foam. You can do a waffle pad. It's different schools of thought, different stories for different folks, right? So the waffle pad does decrease heat, and heat is your number one enemy. That's why this has this hole in the center of it to disperse some of that heat. And this has these indentations that you see in here, all in the idea of dispersing heat. I washed these with I started off with, believe it or not, waterless wash from what I was using on the rest of the vehicle. Wasn't real satisfied with it. There's quite a bit of soap that's still in these. I'm trying to get them to dry out, but you never want to put on a surface, any surface, a dry pad. Always prime the pad, and the priming process is different depending on who you listen to and who says what. I think a lot of them just waste a bunch of material. Pan's actually gone to a liquid spray on his polish, and he does that because of Ivan and them over at DIY Detail, and he's a huge advocate of the waffle pads. And, you know, it's just personal preference. So I've got these, and I'll use these until they're absolutely gone, and that might be 10 years from now. So you definitely want to make sure that you try to maintain the pads. These were used the last time I didn't wash the pads at all. I'm not spending all this money on a wash bucket and doing anything crazy. Just find a relatively non-porous surface. In this case, it's just a piece of plywood that's left over from something that I bought. I think it was a Harbor Freight toolbox. I spray it with soap and water, the pad itself with soap and water, and then I run the machine on it. I run the machine out on it until I feel like it's broken up a lot of the stuff that's on the outside, and then I rinse it until it rinses clean. Some people do make pad conditioners. Chemical Guys makes one that came in a kit. I actually will spray that onto the pad in between applications of polish if the pad has gotten dry at all, because you never want a dry pad. And this is their polishing cleaner, and you know, it's basically just a citrus formula of soap and water. In this case, it's a little bit sudsy. I'm still having a lot of that in there. So anyway, I'm going to bring you over here. The next step in this process has been, I've wiped this down with isopropyl alcohol. And you can actually probably see the difference with the water spotting and stuff that's in this one. I hope you can. If you can't, just trust me. There's a lot of it that's left over from the waterless wash, and you notice that this doesn't have any on it at all. Because I'm in an outside environment, I'm actually going to wipe this down one more time with isopropyl right before I'd start the polish phase. Temperature's cool to touch here. I only have a little bit of direct sunlight. It'll move. The further the day progresses, the better I get. I'm almost to the point now where if I was to back the truck up, I could actually start working on the hood. That brings up my next point. And this is something that I can't say enough, okay? You start doing something like this, you want to try to find a flat surface to originally get comfortable doing it, okay? This surface right here would be where I would start with my polishing. If you've got any type of vinyl or plastic, tape off with some blue painter's tape, because if you get the polish onto this, it's going to leave that stain, and you'll be spending a lot of time scrubbing on this just to get rid of it. So, you know, it's just easier just to tape it off, especially until you get really comfortable. You'll see guys at professional detail don't tape anything. Like, for instance, I've been doing this a little while, so I don't even tape door jambs and door seams anymore because I know not to get polish too close to them. But start on a flat surface and start on something that's non-conspicuous. You know, if you're really concerned about it, or if it's your first time doing it, you might start with a side door panel on the passenger side, something like this here. It's nice and flat. Your initial response is going to be to go to the hood because it's vertical and horizontal and it's flat, right? If you screw that up, it's going to be really noticeable. So there's really nothing that you can permanently do to mess anything up other than apply too much pressure or leave your machine in one place for too long a period of time. It's the only two things that you can do to really screw things up. With darker colors like blacks, you have to be extremely careful with heat because it will really show up, and it doesn't show up until like the next day. It's horrible. This is pretty neutral in color. It's not pistachio, I promise you. This is that gray, industrial gray. They call it lunar. But what I would suggest doing is I would suggest following the steps that I want to show you. Go to another channel on YouTube. Pan is a classic example. Go back into his videos and he actually shows you step by step the machine polishing process and how to do it. He's going to give you a lot more detail than I am. Like I said, I'm just trying to motivate you to do this because I don't want you to be afraid of doing it. There's nothing you can really do to screw anything up. A dual action orbital polisher, start off in a low speed, and I'll talk you through this again in the steps, but I'm just kind of preempting it with this right here. Start off at a low speed so you don't get a lot of sling. Make sure the pad is good and moist, and then put your polish on there and don't over soak the pad. That's one of the reasons why I don't like priming pads, because as that stuff starts to push in, let me step out of range here for just a second and bring you one of these pads. They're actually drying up pretty nice. This one's about ready to be used. I'll ring it one more time. But as you apply, and this is one of the things that's I love Sonax Perfect Finish. It is the perfect polish, except it's in a paste form, a squeeze bottle. And what happens is if you oversaturate this pad, then it starts to warble the pad, and then you start to have it slinging off. And the only way that you can really get rid of it is to high speed the pad, stand away from it a little bit and let it sling all of it out of there. I like to use the philosophy of one pad per side. So it would be 4 in this case: the roof, the hood, and the sides. That's 3. Roof, hood, one side, and the other side, okay? So that would be 4. And the reason why I do is I don't want there to be a bunch of buildup in the pad. Now, if you have the ability to clean pads in between applications, you can actually clean the pad and start over again, and that's one of the cool things about the 5-gallon buckets that you see that's set up for it. I don't do this enough to spend all that money, so I get it all over me. I mean, I'm wearing it, but that's where I'm at on that, all right? So I didn't want to get too long on this rant, but I'm going to be starting with this one. It's in out of direct sunlight, and I'm not overly uncomfortable with this process here. What I will probably do is I will probably tape this off before I come back, because everybody knows how to apply tape, I think. I'm going to tape this because I really don't want this texture surface to get anything in it. Just make for aggravation later on. All right, be back in a bit. Okay, so this is a cordless dual action orbital buffer. This one happens to be in Milwaukee. When I first bought this, it's been a long time ago, about 5 years ago. They were one of the only ones that had cordless. You don't have to spend all this money on somebody's brands that are like $500 and $600. This one was expensive. You can get away with just any cordless or any corded dual action orbital buffer that you can find. You see by the movement of the center of it, it's never in the same. That's the difference between dual action and orbital, okay? So because of that motion that you're seeing there, as long as this is in motion, the pad's never in the same place twice, right? So my pad is already dried out, and it's super dry. You can actually see dust coming off of it, right? A little bit sketchy. I could spread a little bit of that pad conditioner on there. In this case, I'm not going to. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to end up spraying my material on there, my stuff. So very low speed. This is pans. Shake. There you go. Okay. So I'm going to spray just a couple more, just basically to saturate the pad. What I mean by saturation of the pad is I want the pad wet all the way out to its outer edges. Don't want any dry contact points with the pad. Makes contact with the paint. Okay. So that has primed this pad. That pad is nice and moist, and it's not oversaturated, all right? I'm gonna give it one more spray, kind of off camera so I don't get it everywhere. And then this is where your process starts. So I'm only gonna need 3 passes. So I'm gonna start with a horizontal, I'm gonna go to a vertical, and then I'm gonna go back up again. And that's really all that's necessary. You're not putting any weight on this, you're basically letting the pad do the work. So I started off, that's kind of high. You're gonna actually wanna start it off at a lower RPM, just to move the product around so that you don't get spray all over everything. And very low dusting or anything like that, according to what he said, and I don't dispute it. I don't think it's going to be any different than what he says. He's always been true. So once it's moved around, turn your speed up. I'm running this one at about 3,700. You're going to need to set your speed based on what your comfort level is. I'll run it a little faster because I'm used to running it. Once I really get going with it, then I can turn it up even more. So there's my horizontal. Kind of out of frame for you right here. All right, now I'm going to come back with my vertical. And now I'm going to finish with my horizontal. And you'll notice, based on what's left on the surface, when you've worked out the polish as far as it'll work out. All right. When you shut it off, make sure that you leave it attached to the surface so that you don't get the spin off. You get stuff all over everything. Now, this is typically my motive. I may go further with panels depending on what the temperature and conditions are. Right now, temperature is probably 72 degrees, so I'm in good. I don't really have to worry too much about this drying too fast or anything like that. But it's much easier to remove it right after applying it and not letting it sit on the surface. Remember, this isn't protectant. This is polish. And oh boy, Pan, you knocked that out the park, because man, can I see the difference. The gloss is awesome. I'm not going to be able to get this on camera, and you never can. But yes, the gloss is awesome. I can definitely see the difference. Boom, popping. Maybe you can see my hand in the reflection. Get behind here and see. Perhaps. Maybe if I move it like this. There, look at me. Look at that ugly mug. I'm glad it's distorted by the body panels, but anyway. Versus, obviously it's not the same kind of sunlight, but it doesn't transpose over. I hope it does for you guys, but video doesn't speak 1,000 words when it comes to this. All right, so we're getting to the next section of this, and I split this in half just for video purposes. I'm trying to keep the length of this down. I appreciate you staying with me on this. Here's one of those areas that you do want to be careful about, okay? The vinyls. You really don't want to hit this with a polisher. You want to try to avoid this. I mean, if you do, you're gonna just make one quick glaze over the top of it. You really don't have to do anything with it. I wouldn't. Just as a footnote on at least the Tundras, this is not painted. This is actually a stick-on. It's the same with this. This is actually, I watched a video on how these Toyota Tundras are made, and they actually stick this on there. I wish I was as good as this guy to put that piece on there and get it on there straight the first time, but it's actually kind of like a wrap, okay? So you want to be careful with that as far as the polisher is concerned. These piano blacks and stuff like this, you want to be careful with those too, but you know, you don't really want to go crazy with the application of the machine on that. There's really no need for it, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If there's something wrong with it, then by all means, go at it. Get it better. You know, make it right. Just go at it with the polish. If you don't like your results, then move on from them. All right? So I will go ahead and I will switch you over to time-lapse on this next one, and I'll just time-lapse this quarter panel. And I'm probably not going to come back to video until it's time for me to go into the next step, which is going to be the actual application of the ceramic. Note, I will be wiping it all down again with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of whatever polish residue is left over. I don't want any fingerprints or any polish residue. That's just a super big thing. You want to try to stay away from that and avoid that as much as possible. That might be the point when I maybe start putting the gloves on. It's pretty warm, so I don't like wearing the gloves. I'm not really concerned about what this is going to do to me as far as chemical. But I might actually put the gloves on at that point so that I don't have to worry about any perspiration or oil in my hands. Something else you'll also notice, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. That's because, especially when I'm on the roof, I have a tendency to lean and use it as a prop, and you don't want the oils of your skin on there. But also note that my shirt's untucked and there's no exposed zippers. You want to be careful with that. You want to make sure that you're not marring anything while you're working on it. I mean, it happens so fast you won't even realize it. That's one of the reasons why I don't like the corded polishers, because it never fails. That when I look down, that cord, it's been laying in the dirt, it's rubbing right up against my paint. So anyway, all right, enough of that. All right, so I'm gonna do all this in one shot. I've got my speed set at the lowest setting. A little bit too fast. I backed it off a little bit. You see it all over the windshield? That's what happens when you turn it up too fast. That's the only time I've done that so far today. It kind of irritates me. I'm on the last panel, but it happens. All right, so now we're going to come across this way. You follow the contour. Nice and easy. Nothing superhuman. Very little pressure on it. Wish I had a smaller battery for this, but I use this battery for weed eaters and stuff. So. All right, I'm gonna go last vertical. Shutting it off while it's still on the surface. It irritates me about spraying that like that. I'll have to address that now pretty quickly. Once this stuff dries, it's pretty hard to get off. Yeah, so that quickly, it's gone. All right. So going to the polish process here, and while I'm wiping this off, just kind of trying to talk about it. If the audio came out bad, it's because of the machine, and I apologize for that. So I'll talk about basically what I did. So what I basically did was I did one horizontal, one vertical with a 50% overlap. And that's basically the way you're going to be using a machine in any case, is with that 50% overlap. And then by cross-hatching it, meaning this way, then this way, you're just ensuring that you've got proper coverage. So the same applies when you're applying anything. You want to avoid circles. Mr. Miyagi was not right with wax on and wax off. And if you remember what movie that comes from, you're obviously as old as I am, tell me. Put it in the comments. let the rest of the listener base know that you weren't born yesterday and you still got your memory. So, clean polish. I love it. I'm getting the gloss enhancement. It's not damaging the clear coat. It's definitely flattened the surface, but enhanced the gloss, which is basically what you're trying to do with a polish anyway. You're trying to get to a virgin surface so that your ceramic adheres, but you're also trying to flatten out some of the bumps that are natural and clear coat, and any imperfections that are mild imperfections. You're not going to take out massive imperfections with a polish like this. If you've got scratch issues, fine scratches that are towel scratches from washing and drying, they're going to go away with this. And if they're not going away, what I would highly recommend that you do is switch to a more aggressive pad. You shouldn't have to switch products, because Pan says, and I have no reason not to believe him, Pan says that you can just increase the abrasiveness of the pad and still use the same polish. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. I really don't want to eat up any more video. I'm hoping that when I did this time, you're actually able to see the patterns. And all right, here goes nothing. This is what we've been waiting on, right? So I have Pan's applicator. This is a really nice applicator. The size is perfect for this kind of stuff. Smoother on one side, more textured on the other. I guess the textured side would be the side. It would probably be the one that goes down. I don't know. But you can hear this on the surface. This surface is really flat now. And another advantage that you're going to have to putting on something like this is, the reason why this is so beneficial is because of its pH resistance and the fact that it has tremendous water displacement capabilities, not just beading. But all right, so with the ceramics, it just displaces water, nothing sticks to it, right? So when you start talking about environmental fallout, and this stuff's really thick. It's going to take a bit to soak this pad in. But when you start talking about environmental fallout, things like acid rain, what happens is when a droplet gets on the surface and it has something like acid in it from acid rain, it creates a little bit of a divot in the clear coat. And every time it rains, water naturally goes to that low point and it lingers there. And if it's constant acid rain or bad water, then what ends up happening is you have permanent water spots. So done a really good job of soaking this out, making sure it's good and laid in. So let's talk about application now. So application on this is going to be in a cross-hatch pattern. I'm going to start at basically half the windshield, half the hood, and I am going to box it out. I'm going to do a lot of this at once. Temperatures are in my favor right now, so I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm just doing the hood. Now I'm going to go vertical first. Vertical, whatever. I'm going towards the windshield first, okay? Overlapping. And against the color like this, it's probably not going to show up in the camera very well, especially with it being shady now. But it is very thick, which is nice. All right, so now I'm back to where I originally started with that first vertical pass. I'm now going to start with the left to right. Make sure I go all the way to the edges. And this is just guaranteeing that we have even coverage across the whole portion of the panel. If you screw up, your overlap doesn't look right, there's nothing to stop you from making another pass over it. I've got so much reflection in here from trees and everything else. It's even a little bit tough for me to follow it when I'm sitting here, but I'm getting it. And clean microfiber cloths, you want to, okay? Once you start to see in this case, I believe it's a rainbow effect. Yes, it is a rainbow effect because I'm already starting to see it. 1 to 2 minutes. It doesn't take very long. And that's dependent on climate. But once you start to see that rainbowing, I don't think you would be able to see it even if I moved the camera and brought it down for you. But I'm starting to see it now. Once you start to see that rainbowing, then that's basically telling you that the separation of the suspension device has accomplished this mission, and now the product itself is starting to adhere in. And this is when you got to come back with one of these cloths, and this is where I use the finer pile. I fold it into fourths. And I'm going to just start wiping this backwards and forwards to level this. And that's all I'm really trying to do, is level it. It's not completely cured in yet. It's just, this is the leveling phase. I saw that chemical change where the color changed. I'm trying to go all the way from one end of it to the other. Went to the center first, just to collect some of this material on the rag, microfiber. And now I'm just basically wiping this in. And there is nothing to this. Okay, so that's the first cloth. Now, this is when you'll go, this is when I like these disposable cloths, and I'm going to be staying in this direction from now on instead of washing microfiber cloths, because it's not really that expensive. But in the case of this is where you're going to go through a bunch of cloths. So I would probably say I'm probably going to use one of each per panel. I will probably use 2 on the sides. But this will be the last time that I use these cloths on anything. They'll go right in the trash. And the reason being, once this is done, it's kind of like a silica. It's got a texture to it like diamonds. And if you try to put this microfiber cloth on anything else, you could potentially ruin it. And then I am super impressed with the slickness, the ease of application, and the ease of removal. Now, one thing that's good about Pan's products, and is different than a lot of the other manufacturers, is Pan's products are safe for things like rain 1 hour after application. There's other ones out there that are 24 to 48 hours. And that's crap for somebody like me who's working outside, right? So that's the biggest section that I would do at one time. If you're new at this, I would tell you to do the hood in thirds. Start at this center third and work your way back towards yourself, and then switch over to the other side. I would really recommend wearing the gloves when it comes to dealing with this kind of stuff. Obviously, you don't want to adjust anything in your skin, but solvents, anything like that, really, you know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. I might put it on time lapse for the rest of this section, and then I'll be back. So finally completed. Here's your glamour shots. Hats off to Pan. That was the easiest application and removal of any ceramic I've ever used. And I've kind of graduated myself through this now. Before I got into the 3-year coatings, I was using Turtle Wax to the max, Hybrid Solutions. I was putting it on, put the paste on with an orbital buffer, and I was using the topper to spray on. And, you know, gives you the same or close to the same level of protection, but it was extremely difficult to get off. I mean, you were fighting to get that stuff off. And this here, it's just the opposite. I mean, it's just night and day, real easy. You can see the gloss. I mean, obviously you can see the reflections. It's difficult with as many different lighting sources as there is around me to actually see just how glossy that is, but I think it's showing off. It works well on plastics. As you can tell, it really glossed up this top piece of plastic, and I'm really interested in protecting that from UV damage. And you can see how clear it gets on piano black. So that gloss black right there is probably one of the most difficult colors to deal with, and it's slick to the touch. You can use it on plastics of any kind. Glass, I'll show you a shot of glass here when I come up to the top. So I have the panel roof in here, and you can see that there's no residue left anywhere. So pretty neat stuff. It's already starting to get dust on it. So there'll be a little bit of static attraction, I guess, for the first day or so. Cure time is after 1 hour. It can be exposed to rain, and I think the total cure time is 7 days. I want to say Pant said you could wash it with a 0 and 7, and maybe the total cure time is 14. So I do expect even some more enhancement to the gloss. But overall, all in all, extremely happy with it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in more like this, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of it overall. I'm curious to see what anybody thinks about anything I do. If you haven't considered this in the past, I just saved myself about $600, $500, $600. It cost me $99 for the bottle of ceramic. Got it here somewhere. I'll walk over here and show it to you. And a truck of this size, a full-size truck, and I've still got a quarter of the bottle left. A little bit over a quarter. I've probably got enough in there to do my wife's Equinox. So very pleasant experience, and we'll see. I've done everything I was supposed to do to document and show you what is necessary for prep, and I've done all the prep that's necessary, so I expect to see those 3-year results out of it. And regardless of whether I get any real interested in this video, I'll follow up probably in about 6 months, and I'll let you know how things are going. But anyway, thanks for watching.